Hi, I'm Steve Saporn, and this is the Neuro's Journey podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today's guest is Leah Mix, and this is a very personal story for both of us. Leah is one of the foremost experts in psychedelics and healthcare delivery. She spent over a decade as a therapist and then 15 years in commercial insurance, where she helped establish coverage for autism, care that benefits millions of Americans now. After her own psychedelic experience, she decided to dedicate her career to bringing these medicines into the US healthcare system because she actually knows how to navigate that system. Then she lost her sister to heroin. But instead of that tragedy breaking her, it made the mission even more personal. Leah is going to Mexico to do Ibogaine at a clinic called Beyond, and that's what we're talking about today. Ibogaine is a psychedelic derived from an African shrub that's generating attention for its ability to treat addiction, PTSD, and traumatic brain injury. Stanford research on veterans showed an 88% reduction in PTSD symptoms from a single treatment. This led Texas to recently legalize research and commit $50 million to clinical trials. This is the first episode in a 3-part series. We're recording this before her treatment, and we've captured a baseline brain scan, and Leah's going to share her story here. While in Mexico, I'll sit down with Beyond's co-founders, Tom Fiegel and Talia Eisenberg, and then we'll do 2 more scans, one immediately after treatment and another following 6 weeks of integration, and we'll sit down again to discuss the entire experience. Leah is one of the wisest, most loving and brilliant people I know, and I'm so blessed to call her my fiance. Honestly, there's no chance I'd be sitting here without her love and support. We'll share what unfolds, the preparation, the safety, the meaning, and we'll track what actually changes in her brain and in her life. She is my fiance and the love of my life, and I'm so happy to have her here. And I can just say the impact that she has had on my life. I mean, she is a wise and beautiful person, and I would not be sitting here on camera today without knowing Leah. She's impacted me so greatly, and I love her so much. And it takes a lot of courage to discuss what she is going to discuss today. So I want to thank you for that, love, and just tell you how much you mean to me. And this is going to be so much fun. People are going to love to get to know you as much as I love you. So we're weaving the kind of threads of your Ibogaine journey here, you know, the story of it. So what are the threads that are bringing you right now? Why are you doing Ibogaine, and why now?
Yeah, well, first, let me say thank you so much, honey, for that introduction, and so heartfelt. And in many ways, I wouldn't be here in this way without you. And the story of our relationship is the story of my unfolding as well. And I'm so grateful for that, and how you've touched my life and helped me to grow and evolve. And this is just one kind of example of that and snapshot of that. And I know we're going to get into that. But I'm so excited to be here. And as we've joked before, you know, you help humanize me to be on the more, you know, policy side of things and business side of things. And you help me to feel safe, to show people who I am, Leah, as a human being. And that's really important. A very important part of my healing process is to be seen and to feel safe, being seen and being heard in that way. So I just want to start there by saying thank you so much.
Yay!
Yeah,
I love
you. So your question about the threads of my Ibogaine journey, and of course I'm sharing here things that a lot of what you already know, and that helps me a lot because some of this is very tender for me. So there's a personal thread and there's a professional thread, and the personal thread is that my sister passed away almost 7 years ago now, from complications related to intravenous heroin use. And she was my best friend. She was an incredibly gifted and brilliant person who also struggled with mental illness and substance abuse, and had, just like myself, experienced childhood trauma. And it, in some ways, it's a life that is not completed. You know? In some ways, I would say she didn't make it as far as she could have in terms of her intentions to being of contribution. When she was well, she worked in immigration law. She did incredible things to help other people. And so that that suffering and that loss that was long and ongoing for my family since her heroin use started when she was very young, I think about 17 years old. That gives me a really deep feeling of wanting to help other families and other people from having to go through that suffering and move into contribution, move into the beautiful aspects of being alive and being human. And so that definitely like lives pretty deeply within me. And my brother also struggles in this way too. So in some ways, I have dealt with quite a lot of experience of being a survivor of something that the three of us all went through and handled in different ways. And I have the opportunity, you know, we are so fortunate and blessed to have access to these therapies that we really just want other people to be able to have access to. So a huge part of me going into do Ibogaine work is so that I can understand it. And the intention around understanding Ibogaine, the experience of it, and really especially like the care delivery aspects, what goes into Ibogaine therapy so that it is safe and effective. My work in the world is then to translate that into policy and to educate the stakeholders in the healthcare system, the regulatory bodies, and even in finance who will be funding these therapies coming forward. What does that actually need to look like? What do we need to be paying for? Who are the providers who provide this treatment? What kind of training do they need? Who are the folks who are most going to benefit from these types of services? And then how does that not only benefit the patients and their families and their communities, but our society at large? The impact of this is potentially extraordinary and potentially unparalleled in what we've seen in modern mental health treatment. So I'm very excited about that part of it and feel very blessed for the role that I get to play. And my intention is to play that as best I can. So actually meeting this medicine at what I think is the world-class treatment center beyond is the professional part of that thread.
Wow. Thank you so much. And so your brother and sister have had very difficult lives. Your sister's passed. Your brother's having a rough time. And you experienced those same traumas in your life. I experienced a lot of traumas in my life. It's interesting the way that they kind of show up differently. I'm this loud Greek dude who did poorly in school. Leo was, class president and led a very successful early life. So I just find it interesting that, trauma happens in a lot of ways. It's very complicated, and the way it manifests itself can happen in many ways. You want to comment at all on your family life, what was going on?
Yeah. So first of all, I was the vice president of my class. So I don't want to take anything away from my friend. Rachel was the president. Yeah. So what my brother and I experienced, I think is actually a very common story. So it was a mixed bag of a very loving family, but there was also violence in my home. And starting from the time I was 5, my sister was 7, and my brother was 3 years old. My parents had gone through a divorce, and my mom remarried, and we ended up being physically abused my brother, sister, and I by the person who is my stepfather, who I also consider my father. So my family's also had a healing, which I want to mention, which I think is very important. So what happens with trauma is that it is intergenerational. So hurt people hurt people. And what you see is that adults harm children often unconsciously when they themselves are carrying unhealed trauma. And this was the case in my family. And the challenging part about this is that when a child experiences threats to their survival, such as physical violence, while their nervous system is developing, it really creates deep changes in how the brain forms and how the nervous system forms and responds to perceived threat. So the monitoring and the response to perceived threat, and then the adaptive and maladaptive behaviors that come from trying to manage the nervous system become very deeply ingrained. And so this is one of the reasons I know that my brother and sister turned to substances to self-soothe, and we do have some genetic predisposition to mental illness in my family. Trauma makes that more likely to manifest. So they both experience that. And I have certainly been on my own mental health journey as well. I turned to other things. I turned to sports. I turned to pet therapy. I had a cat who I think I almost pet to death. It's a mutually beneficial kind of relationship. And I was able to find good mentorship outside of my family. And I found adaptive mechanisms to reduce the amount of abuse that I actually experienced. So there's, it was a very challenging thing to go through as a child, and then to see how that plays out in one's relationships and one's lifetime. Now we call it CPTSD. And we didn't have that terminology back then. I've been so grateful to see more trauma-informed information come forward. Even when I was trained as a therapist, that wasn't really understood very well how trauma was affecting the brain and the nervous system and the behaviors and the that people were suffering from. So we're in a new paradigm. My family, I just want to say this last thing. We were very, very blessed when I was about 14 or 15 years old to find ourselves in family therapy after my sister's first psychotic break. And that family therapist, this was true family therapy with multiple generations of people the family members in the room. And that family therapist was extremely skilled. And he guided our family to a place where my stepfather could recognize his own trauma. He had had a very traumatic childhood. And then he realized that he was harming his children. And he literally had not been fully conscious of it. So it is unfortunately, at this point in time, I think it is an unusual story when an abuser recognizes that they're causing harm and is able to do their own healing work and then apologize and do the healing work with those they have harmed. And I can say that my family has been able to go through that work. And I have a wonderful, loving relationship with my stepfather today, who's a sweet, gentle, beautiful human being, and my sister and my brother. My sister, before she passed, absolutely, they had a wonderful relationship. And I would say that my brother, when he can be in touch, they have a good relationship.
Yeah, I mean, it really is an incredible story because the abuse was real and very difficult. And the fact that you have such a healed relationship now with Denny. I mean, what an incredible story. And then I'm just going to offer, you might want to flip your hair back and move it off of the microphone. There we go. I love you so much. So, you obviously, because you're in this industry, you're a very prominent person in the world of psychedelics. You have access to all the treatments, all the people. Why are you choosing Ibogaine specifically, and and why now in your life?
Yeah, well, the experience that I have had with Ibogaine is that it is coming towards me. So I have been working with psychedelics since 2014. I was very, very blessed to be offered a session with MDMA-assisted therapy in 2014. And that is what started the journey that I'm on now, because I very much believe that anyone who's suffering from any kind of suffering, and certainly a mental health condition or trauma, who can be helped by these medicines should have safe, affordable access to them. And so I trained at the California Institute for Integral Studies in the first year of the program there in 2016. And Ibogaine was still so obscure at that time, even to those who were in the field of psychedelics. I don't even remember it being taught about in that program, which was the leading program in the country. And so I've been moving through working with different medicines myself, and also looking at this from a policy level and how these medicines should be understood, such as by the Department of Health and Human Services, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, the commercial health insurance industry, or the care delivery system, right? And each medicine and condition that it's trying to treat has different kind of needs and profiles and so forth. Now, Ibogaine came into my awareness, I would say only about maybe 5 years ago, 6 at the most. And I became quite interested because of my family's history with suffering, especially my sister suffering with opioid use disorder, which Ibogaine is uniquely effective, is what the research seems to show. Ibogaine is uniquely effective in treating what is a very difficult condition to treat. My sister struggled with it from the age of 17 to 44. You can imagine, right? So it was actually when Talia Eisenberg, who is a dear friend and one of the founders of Beyond, when we became friends, she actually reminded me of my sister when we met. And she's very open about her journey, but it was watching her process with Ibogaine and how she evolved as a person. She was already extremely intelligent, amazing human being, but then to watch what happened in her life, in her relationship with Tom, in how she is in the world, that really made me pay attention. Like, this is a transformative medicine. And then people that I knew who'd been working with medicines, different medicines for long periods of time would go and they would have their Ibogaine experience. And I've had multiple of those people who I really trust their opinion. I know that they have deep experience with big medicines, with ayahuasca, with 5-MeO-DMT, coming back and saying, this is a very important medicine, Leah. Like, we really need to see what we can do to the languages to help this medicine. So what has happened is when you work with psychedelics, there is a certain way to orient towards them that I have been taught, which is about not chasing medicine experiences, and to allow them to present themselves to you when the conditions are right, when the time is right, when the people involved are right, but not be going and trying to have certain experiences, more allowing them to present themselves to you. And I've really taken that very seriously and not been chasing medicines, but allowed them to present themselves to me. And that's worked really well. So I've been very fortunate to have good medicine experiences, especially with big medicines like ayahuasca. And this was my process with Ibogaine. So I have known about it, and I've purposely said that that's really a big medicine, and I'm not approaching it. I'm not trying to pursue it. I'm observing and I'm learning, right? You can read a lot about it. You can learn a lot about it without having to do it. And most of the people in the world who we need to make, I just want to say this thing, most of the people in the world who we need to make good decisions about these medicines being available for healing, they won't necessarily ever do that medicine, and we can't expect that. So much can be learned, and so many good decisions can be made just from educating oneself. And that's the position that I was taking. I'm considering really how I might help this medicine come forward, because people are telling me, and I'm reading the research about how helpful it can be. And then something shifted, and I had started to have the experience of Ibogaine coming towards me in terms of the suggestion or a sense of I might be being asked. I've been asked to some pretty significant meetings about how to help this medicine move forward. I didn't ask to be invited. People are saying, do you want to help this medicine? And the natural then curiosity and question is, can I help this medicine in the best way possible if I don't experience it myself? I am on a medicine path, so I am in a good position to learn deeply about this medicine through the experience itself. I don't think everyone has to do that. And I got to a place in my learning and kind of a bit of a crossroads where it was, if I'm going to help this medicine in significant ways, so advising state governments, advising other entities about it, is it the right thing for me to do to meet this medicine? And the answer to that was yes. And so that's why now it has, and you've observed this, Steve, just in my consulting business, it has been one organization after another who has come and asked for our help in various ways with this medicine. So maybe a bit of a long answer, but that's what it is. And with I guess a lot of folks watching this might not understand, at the time that we are recording this, the state of Texas just passed a $50 million budget allocation specifically for the research of Ibogaine. So it's kind of like, this is happening. There's a huge clinical trials that are going to start happening, policy work that is going to start happening. There are multiple pharma companies that have started up to bring this medicine forward. So there's a little bit of a sense of urgency around understanding this medicine deeply so that we can serve the greatest number of people in the highest way that we can. And no pun intended.
So, part of this is showing your journey through it. And so people who are not on a medicine path, who are not experienced with it, can learn through your experiences. So we're pre-treatment now. What have you been doing to get ready for your therapy?
Yeah, the preparation for this has really, I want to acknowledge you here, honey, that you have really oriented me around what an incredible, perhaps once in a lifetime opportunity this will be. And the science that we are tracking is a lot of it, but the one that I think is really driving our sense of preparation and integration has to do with the opening of the critical period. And this is the work of Dolan out of UC Berkeley. And understanding that the opportunity to lay down new neural pathways that will open up during the Ibogaine experience is something that you want to come to well prepared. You want to prime the mind and the neural pathways to be beneficial, right? In what is the structures of the brain and so forth that are developed next during that open period. And so the preparation has been everything from what we usually see with psychedelic therapy, intention setting, right? To learning a little bit more specifically about how Ibogaine is different from the other medicines. So it's a much more kind of lucid experience, and there's some nuances in how you can work with that medicine. And I will say that we owe so much of what we understand about how to work with Ibogaine to the Bouiti of Gabon and West Central Africa, where the Iboga plant grows. So those teachings and those learnings have helped us understand how to work with this medicine really effectively. And so we have been so lucky that we have been able to talk to researchers. I have a preparation coach with Beyond, Eva, who has been extraordinarily helpful. People like Tricia Eastman and Joseph Barsuglia, all of these individuals, we are so lucky that we get to consult with them, Dolan, and have a conversation about my preparation and also just understanding this medicine better. So we've been deeply educating ourselves, and then I've been going on a deep path personally, and you have watched this happen. So when you're working with psychedelics, something interesting that can happen is once you set the intention to have the medicine journey, you're basically having the medicine journey. You're orienting towards it. Your mind is starting to kind of shape what's happening in your life around that. And you have watched as things in my life have started to come to the surface. Uncomfortable stuff, difficult stuff, painful stuff. So really being with that process, observing, okay, this is happening. These are the things that I have to look at. Really, like, here it is. I've felt so blessed because there have been people who have come into my life, even in the last few days, who have given me some tools for working with this medicine and some deep truths, such as around wholeness being our natural state. And so if wholeness is our natural state, then it is more a process of stripping away that is what is not us, that is a path to healing, and looking at what is truly there and how we can be with that in a loving way. What is me? What is mine? Even the hard parts, even the scared parts and the shadow parts, that's all me. So one of the most important parts of my preparation from a psychological and emotional standpoint, and even relational in terms of, how this information is coming to me, how I've been supported in our relationship with this work, has been around that. Holding how can I orient around this being an exploration of my wholeness. We've also wanted to do everything that we can to enhance neurogenesis. And so we have been looking at what supplements and foods are really ideal. And I've started taking those proactively. So going into the work with those kind of on board, and a whole idea that will continue thereafter while I'm learning the new skills that I want to bring into my life. And with the setting up the neuro feedback, doing the brain scans pre and you've helped me schedule like a whole series of things. So all of that has been done in preparation for this experience, which is really, I think we really are doing a lot that other people maybe don't get to do or aren't aware that they can do as of yet.
Yeah.
So I'm so excited about that. I hope that's kind of getting to where you're.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I just want to say we're trying to get it out there so people can maximize these experiences. They're not things that happen every day. And so really your pre and post work is so important. And you use the word intention, which is often the word used. And I like that for sure. And especially for somebody that has something chronic like heroin addiction, alcohol addiction, intend to solve that. But the other part of it, when you talk about wholeness, that I think to bring in is let's not be so sure of ourselves that we know everything that we need. And so curiosity to bring in to say, hey, just start asking the questions, priming your inner wisdom in your mind to say, what do I really need? What do I need that I don't even see? And I think that's a really important part of it. So that just really means like taking some time to think and being open and prepping your mind, because you have so much wisdom within you, and these medicines are going to help you unlock what's there. And so we can tell them what to do if we know we need something, but I think we can also be curious enough to say what might be out there that I don't even know would be good for me.
I love that you say this, and this is such an example of how how you are with me that just enriches my life so much. And what you're talking about right now is that has been a huge part, like this openness to not knowing. And I definitely have felt respectfully fearful about working with Ibogaine. And I think that fearfulness and all the things that have been coming up have caused, this feeling of needing to control, needing to know, needing to have some kind of certainty. And then, of course, that becomes a negative spiral, right? Oh, I can't control. I don't know. I feel more afraid because of that. And you helping me to find like an off ramp, and helping me trust that there's an off ramp of that spiral. And it is okay to really not know, to really open up and move into a blank canvas, and that being a safe place to be. I don't have to know what it's going to look like on the other side, or what I'm supposed to be doing, or what purpose my life is supposed to have, or what are the decision points that I'm trying to figure out. Let go.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the best pieces of advice that I got, besides, some that you have given me, is about safety. And the safer that we feel and we can anchor ourselves moving into work, like when we're working with this medicine, the deeper we can go. And it's such it's the Chinese handcuff finger trick, that letting go of control and opening up to whatever it might be, not trying to shape the questions in such a way that you're actually trying to shape the outcome. I'm pretty good at that. You called me on it a lot. And really putting that down. And that's where the safety is, actually.
And we've talked a little bit about some things that actually some other guests on this podcast have brought up. Life is path, life is your guru. So Ravane Bakal, who was a guest on here and is my men's group leader, talks about that. And also Shen Tong, who was also a guest on this podcast, talks about just when you get to a point in your path where you realize that you're part of this incredible intelligence, and that this is really kind of a game. And like, let's make the most of this game. And so we don't have to push away the negative aspects of our lives. We can have preferences, right? We can not want to feel bad, but we can also accept them and say, this is part of it. The 20 times I messed up all the cameras today and the mics and all the things, that's part of the experience of being a podcast. I hope you guys don't notice it. but I could orient around like, no, like you don't just walk in and set everything up perfectly the first time. It's part of the journey. And so I'm just so blessed to see you on it and to support you and to be a part of it. And hopefully we can bring some amazing content to people where they can do this in their own lives and take some of these experiences. And if they are blessed enough to have these psychedelic experiences, which are more and more available, you have to be careful of who you're doing them with. And there's a lot of things to talk about there. But orient around, it's a big deal. And you can change your brain and you can change your life and look at it like that and do things. It's really important. So, we are going to do all of those things. We're going to scan Leah's brain 3 times. She's going to do neurofeedback 10 times in the month of her critical window. She's going to do other intention practices. She is not coming right back home here. She is going to her house in Frisco to be alone in the woods with her thoughts and an 80-inch television, but she will take some time away from her typical life, because what's happening is you do not want to reinforce the old neural pathways. If you jump right back into your life and get all the same stresses and all the same problems, and you can reinforce that too. So what we're trying to do is create an opportunity for you to make the changes with enough quiet, with enough ancient wisdom of meditation and all the things that we'll bring in, and also technology. Neurofeedback is an operant conditioning system where a computer is basically moving your brain in the direction of health. So we're like all hands on deck, and I'm really excited to see how everything sort of goes. And we'll have, I'm going to go down and pick Leah up from beyond, going to get the interview the founders, get their take on it. I believe they've done over 3,000 treatments. They are the cutting edge clinic in the world, and so blessed to know them, that they're going to do this for Leah and that they would take the time to even talk with me. And so we'll get that on tape too. So let's shift gears a little bit here, just because your professional arc, I know that you talked about it a little bit, but so you really helped to get autism covered by major insurance plans. And that skill set is what you're using for psychedelics. Can you just explain to people the process maybe of getting something? Because just because something is legal, just because the FDA approves a medicine, doesn't mean insurance is going to cover it. I think people think that that's an automatic, but it's actually a whole process that you're kind of a world-renowned expert in. And if you can let people understand that a little bit and explain kind of where we are in psychedelics currently.
Sure. Big question. So my work in the commercial health insurance industry, I think, was really relevant. And also before that, doing what we call direct service. So I learned a few critical things in those domains that then I've brought forward into working in the field of psychedelics and trying to help with bringing these particular tools forward. When I was doing direct service, I think some of the critical things that I learned, one was how ineffective the tools are that we have now. And so we talk about people who work in behavioral health experiencing moral injury. And that is because day in and day out, you know that you're only helping people manage their symptoms or making incremental progress. And that any progress is celebrated, but it becomes a very heavy load. And, I worked with some of the most vulnerable populations. So I saw a lot of suffering, homeless populations, veterans, chronically mentally ill, people who have mental illness and substance abuse issues, and children in the foster care system. And what's a lasting impression
on me is the suffering, and really sitting with that suffering and understanding it and experiencing it with people. And then also knowing that healing is available. Right now we're moving into a paradigm where healing is available. But largely it's been symptom management. It's been, kind of shoring people up so they can get by and get through. So that heaviness, that suffering, is something that I can tune into. And this is when clinicians move into becoming involved in policy, there's actually a physical knowing that they're bringing into the decisions that they're trying to support with policy a lot of the time, if they've done a lot of direct service. There's embodied knowing of what it means to experience and be with someone suffering and be with someone healing. And so we're really, I'm holding that, and I'm holding the wish for the alleviation of that suffering in my body. Like, I know what that is, and I want that to change as much as I want my own suffering to change. So that's a very important part of direct service. And I also was invited to sit on a county board that was overseeing Medicare and Medicaid expenditures during that direct service. And I became aware of how the system itself can either cause suffering or cause healing. And that's when I decided to work inside of the commercial health insurance industry. And family therapy is based on systems theory, so that's really how my mind works. And moving to working inside the system itself, and specifically the opportunity to help bring coverage forward for the treatment of autism through applied behavior analysis is the name of that treatment. And it's very expensive. It's back when we were starting this, it was $40,000 to $80,000 per child per year for an average of 7 years. What family can afford that, right? And at the same time, there's a moral imperative because children are moving through developmental stages. And if you don't catch them early and start implementing this therapy, you lose the opportunity for some changes to happen. You can. So we wanted to move as quickly as we could. And the increase in autism, that was becoming very clear that this is happening and people need this treatment and this available. What I learned is a couple of things. One is that to make real change in terms of what is being offered through our healthcare system does require a systemic approach. So there's a lot of different people and a lot of different things that need to happen. So I did everything from helping craft legislation to coding claim systems to deciding how to build and bring on a whole new network of providers, to helping write how the benefit was designed and the medical policy around that. There's many different things that needed to happen and hundreds, if not thousands, of people involved. So that was very fun work for me. I love that kind of work. But this is what I took away from it. We measured pre and post the impact of access to treatment that the treatment had, not just on the children who are receiving it, but on their families. And we saw in the hard numbers that very soon after the therapy was offered and the children were in treatment, the parents, their stress levels, their mental health, their participation at work, their ability to focus at work and show up at work improved dramatically. And from that, we can extrapolate out the benefits of when you make a change that allows people to have access to the treatment that actually helps. There is an impact to not just the person receiving the treatment. There's an impact to the entire family, and there's an impact to society. There's a positive financial impact to the employer who is covering those benefits, and then extrapolate out from there, there's a positive impact all the way up through GDP and just how human beings are being together and experiencing life and producing producing in a good way, creating. That's what is really important to me, is being able to move that needle by doing the right thing. And I just want to tell you this last part. So another thing that I got to do working in the health insurance industry was I got to go to like the Googles of the world, large companies that are paying for benefits. And I got to explain to them what I call the legal, moral, financial trifecta of why they should consider covering these benefits. And one of the great blessings of my career is to see that when you bring to people, decision makers, who are holding the purse strings, and you bring the information that they need in the way that they need it over and over again, they will make the right decision for other people over and over again. I witnessed that more than I witnessed people making bad or wrong decisions. And so I feel very hopeful that we can do this in the field of psychedelics if we're able to reach those decision makers in a similar fashion. And that kind of brings us to the next piece about where we're at in psychedelics. But I did want to give some of that backstory because you can see that it did create a fire in my belly about using the system and helping the decision makers in that system to make good decisions for other human beings, which then impacts us all.
And your firm is about delivering that information to the decision makers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the name of your firm? Let's advertise you a little bit here, though. Come on.
Yeah. Well, our name is Delphi. The legal name is Delphi Circle, but we do business as Delphi. Mm-hmm. And yes, we're so lucky to sit as a bridge between the incumbent systems of healthcare, government, and finance, and the psychedelic therapies and the field of psychedelics. So we're doing like translational work, and we feel that understanding the needs and the motivations and the challenges of the system, the incumbent system itself, and then being able to help it understand how bringing psychedelics forward through the system to benefit as many people as possible actually is a good thing. So, Buckminster Fuller's, one of his, basic tenets is that you can create system change. You can get a system to willingly adopt upgrades and changes. This is the win-win. And I feel really strongly that we have this opportunity with the paradigm shift in mental health treatment that we see potential with psychedelic therapies, including Ibogaine. And I just want to say, specifically in regards to Ibogaine, I don't want to miss this part. I would be remiss if I did not mention the incredible work of Brian Hubbard, very human being, bringing these medicines forward, bringing Ibogaine forward specifically, and also Governor Rick Perry, who I've had the great blessing and privilege to meet and to hear Brian and Governor Perry talk about Ibogaine and the way that they talk about, the way that they understand it and can present it to all kinds of people has really helped this medicine gain traction and gain the potential of reaching people who are suffering. So I do just want to highlight them and express great appreciation for them. There are many others working in this field as well, but their good work shouldn't go unacknowledged.
Yeah, and I think it's a good opportunity to talk about that luckily psychedelics doesn't seem to be a right-left issue. There are people on both sides. And I think to your point, with the information presented in the right way, decision makers will do the right thing. And I've seen some interviews with Governor Perry, who was a presidential candidate, very right-wing politician, not the kind of man you would expect to be out advocating for psychedelics, but he saw through his job as governor and prisons and all of these different things that there might be a way to help people. And with that information, he decided at probably some personal risk. You know, I don't think it was easy for a right-wing politician to say, I'm for these medicines. But when you become convinced that they can help people, and they have helped us so much, and so many people that we know, it is, you like to say, moral imperative. It's something that you just want people to have access to.
Hey, quick pause before we keep going. If this conversation is landing with you, become part of the Neuro's Journey community by subscribing and following along for more stories like this of courage and the science of healing. I'd love for you to drop a comment below and share what part of the episode hit home for you. The more we share, learn, and show of ourselves, the more we heal.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It becomes a moral imperative. And you're reminding me of my first experience with psychedelics. Was in 2014. I was psychedelically naive. And part of the reason for that was that my sister's first psychotic break was after she started experimenting with LSD when she was maybe 16 or 17 years old. And so I absolutely felt that this was something dangerous. I did not want to go anywhere near these things for my own well-being, and I just was not interested. And so until I read the research, I read MAPS. Back then it was MAPS research, and felt that not only was my condition such that I really needed relief, but that it was probably safe. So what I see happening in psychedelics is people being willing to follow the science and to let go of old rhetoric around psychedelics that really has nothing to do with their healing potential. And I also see rooms full of people, the full spectrum of people on American political spectrum, right? Rick Perry describes himself publicly as a knuckle-dragging conservative, right? And in the same room, you have someone with a purple hair and nose ring, and everyone just agreeing that we all have the right to heal. We all have the right to heal. It doesn't matter left, right, doesn't matter. And so this is something that actually works. It actually is effective and efficient in helping people to overcome what's holding them back and what's causing harm. And it just makes sense. It just makes sense. That has been one of the greatest things about working in this field that I've experienced recently. So, I've came out of a meeting recently and felt like my new best friend was a Republican senator from Kentucky. Like that, from where I have grown up in the Democratic side of things, Democratic Party, I would have never expected that. And so this is really a very fascinating thing where there's not a lot that folks can agree on necessarily these days. And this, by God, seems to be one of them. So we want to keep it that way. And we want to make sure that we're, again, working with the existing systems, educating the existing systems, and just improving people's lives. We all do better when we all do better. So I really, again, just feel very lucky to be working in this field and to have the incredible support that I have in our relationship, which is extraordinary. And I know that we have some places to talk about that
in what you wanted to bring up, but I'm eager to get to that part too.
Yeah. I think I'm going to start calling myself a knuckle-dragging liberal. Because I think that's probably a pretty apt description. I think there is a lot of commonality. I mean, when you meet actual people, you see that our divisions are fomented by a small amount of people that make money off of that. And conservatives and liberals both want their addicted and abused family members healed. And there is no doubt about it. And if we can just take away some of the rhetoric and talk about the facts, and someone like Leah can present the facts to the people who make the decision in such a way that they can understand, it's helpful. And, you talked about with autism, how the greater system is impacted. I mean, I know from my own experience of how I'm being as a partner to you, I'm proud of how I'm showing up with you. I'm proud of how I am fathering. I'm proud of how I'm being in the world in a way that I could not say that I wasn't before. And so through this work and healing, and, it's not just psychedelics. I do all kinds of things. Like, you can affect people from, your family and friends to the people you interact with at the coffee shop. And it's really a meaningful thing. And so I'm just so blessed to, be putting my energy towards healing and love and making people feel better. It's the way you make me feel better, love.
You make me feel better. Well, sweetheart, I think that this is an opportunity to talk about this a little bit, because I have had maybe the closest view into your journey since we met in terms of your healing, right? And it has been profound. One of the most profound aspects of it is that fairly early on, and I think you were carrying it already, but you started to articulate your desire to turn your healing path into how you show up in your relationships, being a better father, being a better partner. And that ability to catalyze how you show up in relationship from your inner work has been extraordinary. I really have not seen anything like that in my life so quickly, so intentionally, so powerfully. And you've been witnessing me, but you've been witnessing me change also in response to how you're showing up in our relationship, right? So I've changed quite a lot in the time that we've known each other. I've overcome a lot of fear about relationship, a pretty deep avoidant tendencies that would keep me hidden and unseen in relationship. And the way that you've been changing and how you can show up lovingly, consistently, vulnerably, kind, open, and curious, courageous, and also action-oriented towards making our lives better and our family life better has been absolutely profound. I think it's hard at this point to separate my own journey from the impact that you've had on me. And I think that my family would say that. The reflections that I've received from my parents about how much more joyful I am, how much more open I am able to be, how I can allow love and support and joy and self-expression and my wholeness to be seen and witnessed is different. And the people closest to me are so happy, are so appreciative. So when I say all this to say, like, when one person, and we know this in family therapy, when one person decides that they're going to change,
the whole system starts to change.
Mm-hmm.
And you have taken a leadership role in this family to be that change. And I see the kids changing. I see the whole thing is just getting better and better and better. And we're, very fortunate that you've had the courage to walk that path with so much power, so much integrity, so much deep intention, so much clarity, so much consistency. So thank you so much, honey.
That's a lot. Thank you. And yeah, I mean, it means a lot to me. I mean, this is my life's purpose to, and certainly it starts with you and the kids, to try to make these changes. And what's nice about it is it's a snowball effect, because as somebody starts to become more healed, then the circumstances get easier, because, maybe where I would have yelled at Apollo or Athena, I could not. And then they can be heard, and then they're more likely to say things, and then they open up, and it's like this snowball effect that affects the whole system that we're really trying to get out there for all the systems. But I mean, what's happening between us is pretty incredible, given our traumatic histories. Look at your family. I mean, you have one sibling who's passed on and one who's missing, essentially. And that's not an unusual just stat. 66% of people with the kind of trauma histories that we've had have these extremely difficult lives, and that are outwardly difficult. And we've had those difficult lives, and it might have looked on the outside like the lives were great in so many ways because we've been blessed, but we've been battling these experiences that we've had our whole life. And to be able to have a relationship and the support level and the way that we are with each other, it's highly unlikely based on the stats. And it's really incredible to be a part of. And like I said at the beginning, you've done that same thing for me, just the wisdom of being able to talk with you about my daily life, about, I think so much of what you think of me and what you say. You're brilliant, you're wise, and you're loving. And so if you make a reflection to me about how I'm being with Apollo, Athena, with you, I don't think I've ever said I'm not going to do that. I mean, I've tried. I might not always succeed, but if you say something to me, I change my behavior because I want you to feel good. I want the kids to feel good. And I would not have had the tools. I would not have been able to change my behavior before all of this work that I've done, including psychedelics, but hypnotherapy, somatic therapy, neurofeedback, daily meditation process. But it starts as you start to repair your foundation from the cracks and the difficulties of our early childhood life, then you can really start to rapidly change. And that's happening in our family, and we want it to happen in the world. So I just feel so fucking blessed to be here with you right now. I mean, it's really awesome. And, that you would, this is the first time that you've publicly disclosed your family history. And I know that's not an easy thing. And just so everybody knows, Leah's stepfather, who she considers her father, knows about this, supports it, wants it out there so that his healing and the actions that he did can be of benefit to other people. And that's what we are here about. We are willing to get on tape, be vulnerable. I'm the knuckle-dragging liberal cry on the internet, whatever. So that we can help ourselves and help other people. And I just so wish this for everybody, to have the kind of support that I have with Leah, to feel the way I feel about myself. I mean, I feel like I've changed dramatically, and I feel proud of that. And I feel like all the things that happened to me are worth it. And now I look at those experiences as blessings, because not only do I have a story that I'm proud of, I know I overcame shit. I know that I did, and I know that I'm impacting at least the 3 people in this house pretty pretty strongly, and I hope millions, hopefully, like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. But to be a part of it is just such a blessing, and it's out there for everybody, and you can heal, and it's steps that you can take. And Leah and I are examples of it. We are not finished products, and we have all kinds of stuff to go through, but we've made a lot of progress. And, you know, you can only teach as far as you've gone on the path. And we've gone far enough to say, look, if you've had these experiences in your life, you can have a loving relationship where you're calm, where you can talk, where you can not explode at your children and your partner. You can encourage people into health in a way that, you never thought you even deserved to have those things. So I feel so blessed to be a part of this whole thing. And I'm excited because we get to play it out, over time and for other people, and I know this has been a lot, and we have multiple sessions here that we're going to talk about.
Well, it's crazy because honey, that I'm a pretty private person, right? So I would never be doing this if it weren't for me seeing how your willingness to be vulnerable and open about the things that have happened. I have already seen, you call yourself an encourager, right? I have already seen people radically shift in their relationship to their own trauma and their own suffering because of the way that you're being. And so there's something to that. So it's led me to feel like, okay, perhaps it's time for me to speak. And what you say is true, that I did ask my dad, Denny, if I can reveal these things. And he 100% is with us we need to be talking about these things that have happened. We need to move past and beyond the secrets. If this was, you and I from outside appearances looked like we were winning, right? Our careers are all the things. We were suffering tremendously. So we have to believe that is happening to so many other people in secrecy, in quiet, and it's time to move past that. I don't think that I could have this relationship with you, which is the most profound and intimate and vulnerable and healing relationship I've ever had in my life. And I wouldn't be able to I could not have this kind of relationship before, because I was constantly monitoring for threat, shutting down. My nervous system would not really allow that. And moving deeper into healing, having a partner who's doing his own healing, creating the safety in the relationship. And all of this, what's happening in I was about to say marriage. Not yet, but you're pretty close.
Our soon-to-be marriage.
Our relationship can be traced to the research. So like Sue Johnson, who developed emotionally focused couples therapy. The whole deal with that, it is the only form of couples therapy that has been clinically proven to work. And the whole deal with that is people are training themselves to be able to maintain the emotional connection while they are in conflict. And as we've been doing our deeper healing work, we're able, like our nervous systems are able, and I will speak for myself, my nervous system, because of how you're being and because of the work that I've been doing, is better able to tolerate staying in connection while we work through things that before would have terrified me. And I would have run away and hid and not told you. And that would eventually have ended our relationship. And now you see, I will maybe sometimes step away, but pretty soon I'll come back to you and I'll say, hey, honey, this thing. And, you get to laugh at me a lot about the things that I'm worried about. And you get to show me over and over again that you are a safe person, that I can tell you the things that are upsetting me or hurting me or that I need. And you're going to respond consistently in a loving and open and non-defensive way. And so now these neural pathways that I have of relationship is safe. I can ask for what I need. I can show more of my emotions, and it's safe. It's safe to be me in this relationship. That's not something that I've been really afforded up until this point in my life. Wouldn't it be an amazing world if this was interrupted? All of the deep wounding could be lessened just even a few degrees. That there could be more psychological safety. One of the things that we've talked about psychedelics is why they might be important for humanity and for evolution. And that has to do with how fear operates in the brain. When there's perceived threat, the energy in the brain moves to the brainstem and the midbrain region, primarily in order to manage that threat and to figure out how to keep oneself safe. And the issue is that means energy is pulled from areas of the brain like the prefrontal cortex, which solve problems and plan and are logical, right? And so what happens when we're able to change our nervous system so that we are perceiving less threat that isn't there, right? Our brain starts to relax, our nervous system starts to relax. The energy that was previously being consumed in those emotion and threat sensing areas of the brain takes up less energy, and that energy starts to flow more and more to the creative and problem-solving parts of the brain. Planning, all of this. Now, I've experienced this in my life. I would say something, just to put it into practical terms, I went from being like a mid-level manager in corporate America to starting 6 different organizations, including founding a small insurance company, and going from knowing nothing about psychedelics in 6 years later being an advisor to the Department of Health and Human Services. That had everything to do with changes in my brain and my nervous system that allowed for my full capacities to come online. And I'm not saying that I'm promising that this will happen for everybody else in the same way. I'm saying this is my experience. And gosh, it is so much better to live in a body that is relaxed and calm and not fearful. So much easier to create and focus and love and be attentive to those around you and being in service to other people. And if we think that might happen to other people, that their brains and how much of the energy of their brains can be put towards their prefrontal cortex and not commandeered by these other parts of the brain because they have trauma operating in their systems, we actually can probably start solving some of the problems of the world. We move out of a primary threat response way of creating in the world to a more, I think, sophisticated way of perceiving what's beneficial to how humans collaborate together, take care of one another, understand that we are on a finite planet, and solve for that. This is the work of being a human on planet Earth. And I feel that I'm in a better place since working with these medicines and surrounding myself and being in close relationship with people who are doing their deep healing as well. It doesn't have to be with psychedelics. There are other tools that can be used 100%. We're just having this conversation about this today. So as we collectively heal, the hope and expectation is that that's going to be beneficial for how humanity goes about being human on this planet. And one thing that I just want to end on this note is the truth about especially being with you in this healing journey is the more healing that we do, the more fun we're having.
That's for sure.
That is for sure. Oh my God. The amount of laughter and joy and interesting things that we're doing, and just our aperture is open to joy and happiness and calm and peace. And so it's flowing into our lives and it's flowing into our experience. And so, I think that it's not just about people suffering less. There's the other side of the equation of people enjoying more, of people having more contentment and calm and peace in their lives. And I think that this is a great project to be working on.
Yeah, it's so much fun. And, it's interesting. You talk about the brain changes, and, I was reflecting on what was happening before in the nervous system that I had, when I met you, and even, certainly in my other, marriage and other relationships, was when my partner would bring something to me, my body and brain and everything was registering it as a threat. And so, I'm not a fleer. I'm a fighter. And so now, because, there's been some rewiring, I don't have, all of those systems don't engage. So it's not like I'm doing anything in real time. It's just my brain has been rewired. So now I can hear it and I could be like, oh, this is just somebody I love asking a simple question of me, it's not the end of the world. She's not going to walk out the door, on this thing. And so everything sort of changes on it. And it's just really a blessing. And it's the kind of thing that anybody can do. You need to take steps on it. You need to make it part of your important things in life. You need to do something every day to have this healing. And the more you do it, the more fun it has, the more cool people you meet, the more your life just opens up in ways that you don't even really imagine. And I know for me, I don't think you thought you deserved. Because, you were hurt. My abuser, I don't know his name, my sexual abuser. I know him as the bad man. And, that somehow got transferred to me. And I thought for a long time that I'm a bad man. And I still am working on that issue now in real time. So there's a lot of progress going on. There's also a lot of things to do. And it's just the most fun endeavor you can be in my opinion. Yeah. And it affects so many people so wonderfully that I just feel so blessed to have met you. Really, you've opened my world up to so much through your wisdom, and we're on this journey together. It's been amazing, and we recently got engaged. Yeah. If I can ever get you to get your ring size out, I will order the ring. I gave her a fake ring at the engagement, and I have one ready to roll. Too busy, but
I will, honey.
Yeah. I know that's happening soon. You will see a ring on her finger at some point. But
so let me just pick this up, because you're talking about the things that the struggle is still real. The things are still real, and they're just more. It's like we can see them a little bit more. Mm-hmm. So we had
before we got engaged, just, talking about where I'm at right now and what I'm bringing, the self that I'm bringing into this Ibogaine experience. Maybe a week or two before you were planning on proposing and you had an elaborate plan, so you were really working on it a lot. We had some kind of an interaction that triggered me, that I was afraid, and I was moving in with you. And so I went into a fear response that 100% is my trauma. And I pulled way back, and eventually I was able to tell you that, the exchange that we had and what had happened made me so fearful that I felt like we were one argument away from me becoming homeless. And you were like secretly like preparing to propose. Just like completely like irrational, right? Like not me being in my trauma and not really understanding like the depth of love and support, and feeling still very vulnerable to harm and abandonment. And those are some of the realities that, I'm working on. The perception of threat being, small things seeming like really bad stuff might happen because something small happened, and going from 0 to 100, and my body, preparing for that. And, you see that sometimes in the way that I move, and really coming towards this Ibogaine experience with that being my reality still, acknowledging that this is an aspect of who I am, and also wanting to have a more persistent experience of safety that's not about my trauma, where my trauma isn't being so easily activated, and that I can feel like I can stand up for myself, that in the moment I can actually say, hey, that kind of hurt my feelings, or hey, could you say that? Could we, say that differently? Or hey, I'm feeling kind of something in my body. Like that would be more ideal for me. So safety is something that I'm bringing into my Ibogaine experience for sure. Really wanting to get more of a grounding with that. And then also this part about wholeness and feeling more aware of or open to all of myself, and things that I might be ashamed of. Like you are such a, we're very we have a lot of contrast in who we are as people. And your lack of your lack of shame, and your your lack of need for privacy, and all kinds of. That's a wonderful teaching to me, right? Like you don't have shame. You're here saying these things, and you're not only are you completely safe, you're becoming more joyful and happy. And so I have to be curious about that. What does that mean for me to feel less ashamed, to be more open, to be less guarded, and to feel safe in that? And I'm very curious.
Oh, amazing. And, one thing I want to, that came up when you were saying that is, we're talking about all these blessings and all this progress that we've made, but we're not gurus. There's nothing like fully realized about us. We're walking this path on a daily basis. But you have come a certain way, a certain distance. And I think some of it really by talking with Shen and his approach to saying like, this is just a game, and so it wouldn't be a fun or interesting life experience if it was all easy. And there are levels to this, and I have no doubt that we can continue to grow and learn and be better to each other and better in the world for the rest of our lives. And I love, I sat a meditation retreat with a Tibetan monk called Mingyur Rinpoche, and he was, this is a book reader, and he was noted, he was on the cover of Newsweek or something as the happiest man in the world. They scanned his brain, and he was talking at the retreat about how his father and grandfather both did this death meditation. When they knew that it was their time, they went and meditated, and people would come and see them and pay their last respects. And I asked him, I said, well, what's the purpose of that? And he said, we want to learn and grow until our very last breath. And that's somebody, I think, who's seeing that the life is here to experience all the way through to the end, and even the part just before you're going to die, which probably has a lot of pain and doesn't feel so good, is still an opportunity to be on this planet, and we're so blessed by it. So we're going to continue. I'm going to convince Leah to do this more because I'm way better with her. Maybe she should start the podcast thing. but
Definitely not.
I'll convince her to get on more, and we'll continue to have these conversations. We will continue, of course, this bit of content on your Ibogaine journey. And what a blessing to have you in my life and to have done this with you. And so excited for you. You leave on Thursday to go to Mexico, and I'll be following a couple days after. And we're going to tell you all about the whole thing that happened. And it's going to be quite an adventure. And I'm so blessed to be on it with you and with you.
And honey, I just want to say, like, now having, I've never done a personal pod, that I get asked to do podcasts often. And I almost always say no. And I only do them in a professional context. This is the first time I've ever done anything, like any kind of a personal podcast. And one of the things that it's brought my awareness to is what a vulnerable thing this is. I'm actually now, as your partner, sitting with a new awareness about what this must take for you to be offering this into the world. Like, to just be speaking in a way that you know that this can be seen publicly by anyone. And the inner experience of what do I share? How do I share? Is this helpful? There's a lot that comes up as you're having a conversation like this in this format, and your dedication to doing the inner work, but also just the work that it takes to offer this to the world. I have a whole new respect for that, having sat with you today. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, let's wrap it up. Okay. Thank you so much. I love you. We love you too. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining the Neuro's Journey podcast. If this episode landed, share it with someone who needs to hear it. The real medicine is in the connection, and this community only grows when we reach for each other. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming. And if you have a minute, leaving a rating really helps more people find this work. And keep showing up for your own journey. Every small act of courage matters. For you, for the people around you, and for all of us. I am so grateful to be walking this path with you.